Welcome back to Andersen. We're here in the kitchen today, and today we're going to do another Make It Homemade episode here. So what we're doing today, last time we did a boxed cake mix. Today we're doing boxed bread dough. This is a pretzel dough, and a yeast dough, they can be really kind of bland when you buy them in a box or a bag, okay? They're just not really that great. So we're going to take a look at the directions, see what we can do to kind of make it better so that it's not so bland. So we are going to make pretzels according to the package directions, and we are going to just make a couple of adjustments along the way so that when you actually make these, they taste more like homemade, okay? So we're going to start by opening up this pretzel dough package, which is always fun because my hands don't work. So that's exciting. There we go. Good enough. We just ripped the heck out of that. So I'm going to start by dumping the pretzel mix into a bowl. Just mix it in a bowl. Now we're actually going to look at the directions. So the directions want you to use 1 cup of water and the mix, and that's it. That's all they want you to do. That will result in a really bland dough. Okay, so instead of water, we're using milk. And actually, this is a buttermilk. Okay, we are using buttermilk. That'll give it a nice, rich flavor. We're also going to add a couple of things. In their directions, there's no fat. There's no butter. There's not even any margarine or oil or anything. Well, if we want a little more dimension to our dough, we are going to add 1 tablespoon of butter. That's cultured butter, but you can just use standard butter. That's cultured butter that I made the other night. And then because I still want my dough to be richer still, we're going to add an egg, okay? That will give us a little more moisture, and it'll just give the dough a little bit of dimension. And because this is bread dough, I am just going to mix with my hands. I know it looks gooey at first, but it's just easier. So you could actually do this in your bread maker or in a mixer. You can just put all these ingredients in your bread maker or your mixer, and it'll do most of the work for you. Set it on the dough setting, and then you'll have a good old time. But since I'm doing this on video, I might as well make it in a bowl. So we're making this in a bowl. Get that in there. Once it kind of comes together as a dough, you can start kneading it. But we're not kneading it right now. We're just gooing it together. So remember to take your sticky wet dough, okay, the sticky wet parts, scrape them along the sides, pick up as much of that flour as you can. Don't leave that behind. But all of the other ingredients should be in here. This should have your salt and your flour and your yeast. It'll have everything, so it's fine. Okay, the doughs are fine. They really are. They're bland. There's nothing wrong with the boxed mixes. They're just really, really bland. So it's really sticky right now, and that's okay. Because when you knead dough, I'm not going to make you watch me knead the dough, but when you knead the dough, it will slowly get less sticky. Just make sure you don't go like over the amounts they say. So if they say 1 cup of water, you can replace it with 1 cup of milk or 1 cup of buttermilk. If you try to go like 1 1/4, you're going to end up with a really sticky dough. So this is a little stickier than normal because I added an egg, but it will kind of, as I knead it, it will kind of firm up. So we're just going to knead it for a minute, and I'm just going to cut ahead until I'm done kneading. All right, we have been kneading our dough for a few minutes. It's looking like dough, right? It looks like dough. We've picked up most of the flour mix from the sides. We're looking good. Most of it's come off our hand. If you're having trouble getting some of the dough off your hand, it's too sticky, just put your hands right above your dough and just rub your hands together. That'll help remove most of the dough. Then you can just go wash your hands like normal. But our next direction on our package tells us to put it in an oiled bowl. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my pretzel dough, get my oiled bowl, transfer it to a clean oiled bowl. When you do this, swirl it around, turn it over, swirl it around again. Now we're going to cover it And this one says to let it rise for 25 minutes. You're going to give it an hour. Okay? Always give bread dough an hour, especially when it's a premix. You don't know how old the yeast is in here. Okay? You don't know when they packaged it. So we're going to give it an hour. We're going to pop a cover on it, and then we're going to come back in an hour, maybe even an hour and a half. We want to make sure that it is properly risen. Don't rush it. That's one of the downsides of these mixes. If you follow the directions to a T, you end up with dough that just doesn't rise. So we are going to wait until that dough has doubled in size, which will take at least an hour. So walk away, come back in an hour, check on it. All right, so our dough has been sitting. Now, I don't expect it to double in size because it's pretzel dough, but I do expect that it has expanded a little, and it has. Good enough. Okay, we don't need the bowl anymore. Now we consult our next direction. The next direction on the package is preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I've done that. In about 4 minutes, you are going to hear the beep of the oven telling me the oven is preheated. The next step after that, it wants us to make a baking soda mixture by putting water in the microwave and warming it up, and then adding baking soda. In fact, I'm going to have my son get me the baking soda because I forgot it. But I'm not going to microwave the water. I don't like that direction. Okay? I do not like the direction. I get better results with pretzels, and you will too, if you boil the water on the stove. So because of that, I have put a pot of water on the stove already, and it will slowly come to a boil over the next few minutes. So if you have something like that, where your direction on the package tells you basically to take a shortcut, don't. So microwaving the water or doing whatever they want you to do, don't do that. If it's not something that would enhance the dough, don't do it. So we're not going to microwave that water. We are going to boil it on the stove. We do have baking soda, and we will add the baking soda just as soon as that water boils. So that's that direction taken care of. We are boiling the water, and we will add the baking soda. Remember, take it step by step. Find out what exactly is going to work for your particular recipe. Whatever dough you're working with, figure out what exactly will work. I just had to grab a knife. So our next step after that is to roll a piece of dough into a rope. And it wants us to divide the dough into 8 pieces. So we can do that. We can do 8 pieces. We can take our dough and divide it into 8 pieces, not a problem. There we go. That's already 4. That's an easy one. You could, of course, divide this into more pieces or less pieces if you wanted bigger or smaller pretzels. But we're following the directions. We're just changing things up as needed to make these taste better and not so bland. Remember, you can add like herbs and seasonings to your dough as well if you want to. I tend not to, but I don't use store-bought dough very often. I don't use these mixes because I don't really need them. But they are something you can buy, something you can work with. It'll be good. Don't worry about it. You can add an egg, you can add milk, and it'll all taste good. So now it wants us to roll these into ropes. How long do they want our ropes? We're following the directions, remember. They want us to do 15 inches. That is long. So I'm probably only going to do about 12 inches. But that's fine. So we're just going to, I like doing it between my hands. I know you should do this, I know. But if you do it between your hands, it's faster and it's funnier. So, yes, it's funnier. It's funnier. There we go. So, just kind of make your ropes. You do want to make your ropes kind of roughly equal when you're doing pretzels, whether you're making store-bought dough or not. So, that looks good. There, we're making it that big. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're going to be eating them. And in about 45 seconds, you are going to hear the timer go off for the oven. So I am just going to skip the next rolling out the logs of dough here, because you don't need to watch me roll 8. But basically, yes, we're just following the directions. You're just doing what the directions tell you, because directions are not bad. In fact, sometimes the directions are really helpful. But there's just, every once in a while, the dough mixes, the powdered dough mixes, it just won't work. So let's just skip ahead to when I'm done rolling out these doughs. All right, we have rolled out our 8 ropes. Okay, we have 8 ropes. So now we need to form them into pretzels, because that's what this tells us. This tells us we're basically going to form them into pretzels. It even tells you how if you don't know how. So we are going to take our dough, form it into pretzels. I just do a U, and then I let the dough twist, drop it on a pan. You can twist once, you can twist twice. It doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter. You're just going to do that. Your dough should be slightly sticky, remember. If your dough's not slightly sticky, that's not necessarily your fault. Okay? That could be the mix. So it's okay to decide you have to add a little bit of extra water or extra milk in our case, because sometimes these mixes are just a little bit too dry. Okay? So I'm not going to make you watch me form all of these. It's boring. So we're actually going to skip ahead till all of these are done. All right, our pretzels are now formed. We're going to take a very quick little move over to the stove, but we're going to cut so you don't have to see my dirty floor. All right, the next step this thing wants us to do is dip them in the microwaved water, but we boiled our water, and we're going to add some baking soda, and we're not going to worry about it. I'm going to add a little more. I don't even measure the baking soda. It just, if it looks good, it is good. So we're going to drop them in, and we're going to let them float. This one just wants them quickly dipped in. They'll work better if we let them float a little bit. So we're just going to pop a second one in. Get them moving. We're going to let them float. Or at least come close to it. I like to flip them over as well so they're facing the correct direction. Remember, we've already preheated our oven to the temperature indicated on the package, which was 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So we are just waiting now for these to bubble. And we're going to remove that one right there. Okay. I didn't form these very nice, but that's okay. So what we're going to do is just keep doing that, and we'll skip ahead in the video because you don't need to watch a bunch of boiling of pretzels. It's boring. So we'll skip ahead to when they're all boiled. All right, these ones are nicely boiled. Let's pull these out. Hot, hot, hot. And since those are the last of them, I'm going to turn the heat off. And I'm not going to need that anymore. Let's just drop that in the sink. Bit of a clatter. All right. Take that actually off the heat so it stops hissing. All right, our next direction, let me grab the package. Next direction wants me to beat an egg with water and spread it on the pretzels, which is not a bad direction. However, I'm not going to add water. I hate when they tell you to add water to the egg. It just dilutes it. You will have a much richer, deeper flavor if you don't add water to the egg. So, just light. You don't want scrambled eggs in your food here. Light. So lightly coat that. Okay, just a spritz, just a coating, because we want our salt to stick. Because the direction also tells us to use a coarse salt. That's a good direction. We like that direction. So we are just going to get these on here. There we go. That's a good direction. And now we're going to do our salt just like it says on the package. Remember, you're following the package directions. You're just making tweaks here and there. You don't want to completely discard the package directions. They do give you some helpful hints and tips. What you want to do is just make sure that you are adjusting where you need to adjust. Like the ingredients, like some of the techniques, you just want to be a little aware. This is a quick way to have some pretzels or any other bread dough that you happen to be working with and just make it taste a little more homemade, just a little richer in flavor instead of the blandness that a lot of these kind of things have. So the direction on the package is to bake them for 18 to 20 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'll pop them in the oven. We'll come back once they're baked. And just like that, we have pretzels in this case made from a box or a bag, as the case may be. It's really not difficult. These mixes are completely fine. Not everybody has all the ingredients at home, and sometimes you just want to make something quick and you just want to follow the directions. But if you just, thank you, Tequila. But if you just make a couple of tweaks, you can end up with delicious, homemade, baked goods without having to have all of the ingredients in your cupboard because these mixes are fairly complete. Just a couple of tweaks. Use a milk instead of water, perhaps add an egg, perhaps if it's a bread dough like we're talking about today, you want to give it a little extra rise time just to allow that dough to relax and soften a little bit. Remember, you don't know how old the yeast is in there. So just with a couple of tweaks, you can have something deliciously perfect. Look at those. Those are really nice and chewy, just the way a pretzel should be. That's about it for us here tonight at Andersen Acres. We'll see you tomorrow.